This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is Monday, November 13th, 2023. I'm producer Kevin, joined by the co-host of the Sixth Man Show, Luke Sylvia. And as you will notice, no Jonathan Osborne tonight, the founder, the host, the father of the Sixth Man Show. Unfortunately, with a nasty stomach bug that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. So it's you and me, Luke, hanging out tonight, man. How are you doing, bro?
I'm fantastic, Kevin, and I'm doing better than Jonathan. First of all,
yeah, that's facts.
That's for sure. But I'm doing really good, and you're doing really good, really well, I should say, because we're rocking the Magic City jerseys for the 23-24 season. The Magic so kindly sent us a box, that sent us the jersey much like last year, but this year they had, and YouTubers have a better viewing experience for this. You've got the box right there. It's a shiny silver box with a nice little silver shiny logo, Magic logo on it. You open it up. It's got the Kingdom on the Rise statement story with the in-season tournament court, because the Magic will be wearing these jerseys for the in-season tournament games on the box, on the inside of the box. Really, really appreciate the Magic for sending those our way. They are so sick. What I will say, Kevin, is that these jerseys, a lot of the leaks were going around, before the actual statement of, showing the jerseys happened. And I thought the jerseys were fine. I didn't hate them at all. I thought they were fine. Then we saw Paolo and Franz wearing the jerseys when the Magic really started putting it out there. And I was like, oh, those look really good on the players. And then to get them delivered to us and to open the box, I was like, wow, these jerseys are sick. Like they really are sick.
Yeah, I'm a fan of them. I definitely like, especially, I'm still a fan of like the whole vibe. Last season, the vibe of the city jerseys coming into this season. I still love the pattern, like the really subtle pattern.
Mm-hmm.
On like the main body of the jersey, just like last year. I still think that's so cool and so unique. There's like not really anything quite like it in the league right now. But then, yeah, love the font. I'm cool with the colors. Like you said, I'm really excited to see it with the court, the in-season tournament court. We have to wait a whole nother week for ours, by the way, which is kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm totally a fan of it. I think they're pretty cool. And yeah, especially once they're on the players. You and I were talking about it too, like, when's the last time the Magic had like a standard basketball collar here?
Mm-hmm.
Like even me just wearing it, I was like, man, I haven't worn a standard collar NBA jersey in so long. But yeah, the dudes that are way more swole than us, they look, it looks right. It looks right on the NBA players. But yeah, big shout out to the Magic for sending those our way. It's pretty cool.
And I believe they have them in the team shop right now, if I'm not mistaken. Are they, you might know better than me, Kevin, as far as availability, where do people find them? But in the team shop, I would assume NBA.com or something has them available as well.
That's exactly right.
Go and you can go and get it, because these jerseys are awesome.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we first recommend the Orlando Magic team shop for those that are in Central Florida. It's a great place to get it. And plus, you get the official Disney patch if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, if you are not in Central Florida, you can get it at Fanatics or other sites like that. And just shameless plug to our friends at Rockham. You can get matching City Edition socks and underwear from our friends at Rockham. So shameless plug there. It's brand new. They just came out with it this past week, so it looks pretty cool. But yeah, you can be totally decked out in City Edition gear. But yeah, big shout out to the Magic. So Luke, I wanted to obviously let the people know this is a really big week ahead for the Orlando Magic. Like, definitely the biggest week of the season thus far. And there's a chance that by the end of the season in April, depending on how this week goes, we could look back on this week as the most important week of the season. I really genuinely believe that. We're going to talk more about why that is later in the show. But I did want to tell you folks that we have just a slate of content for you guys this week. This is a huge week for the Magic, and therefore a huge week for the Sixth Man Show. So several things you got to hear about, things that are coming up this week that we want you to be a part of. So Tuesday night, the Orlando Magic play their first ever in-season tournament game in the history of the Orlando Magic. In-season tournament game on Tuesday in Brooklyn, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to be on playback for it. If you haven't joined us yet, playback is basically like a virtual online watch party. Instead of going to a bar, going to a friend's house, it's a digital virtual online watch party. So you get in there with other Magic fans in the chat. You'll be hosted by Jonathan will be there. Luke will be there for part of it. I'll be there for part of the game. We might all three be there at the same time for some of it. Who knows?
Good chance.
But we'll be there live, watching the game together, reacting to the game. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We've done several of these this season. You guys have really enjoyed them. We're going to do that for this big game on Tuesday, first in-season tournament game. So definitely check that out. That's playback.tv/The Six Man Show. Then, of course, there's another game on Wednesday in Chicago. Then Friday, this is the big one, Luke. This is the big one for us. The second in-season tournament game. This one's in Chicago, so another road game. But for us, it is our first watch party of the season, and we're picking it up just like we left off. We finished our last watch party last season with the NBA Draft Lottery at Wall Street Plaza. And guess what? We're running it back. Wall Street Plaza this Friday. Game tips off at 8, so get there about 7:30 to hang out for the festivities. Luke, it's going to be mad. Like, if you were there for the lottery watch party, you know it was insane. We need to carry those vibes over from that night to Friday night. A huge game, in-season tournament game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then lastly, I'll just say, of course, we have our post-game live after each and every Orlando Magic game. That's been a lot of fun. I've been able to host those so far. It's been so much fun, and I know this week's going to be a great week. But Luke, I had to mention Friday, the watch party. I'm trying to think back to last season. I feel like you were present for a certain watch party that also happened to be the Magic playing in Chicago against the Bulls. You want to remind the folks, like, maybe how that game went, how that watch party went? I'm trying to remember.
Listen, man, this game was a thriller. This game was a great, a great environment. I will say, there was people that kind of trickled out at some point, maybe after halftime, that I guarantee you wish that they had stayed for the whole thing. Because we all know how this one ends. Jalen Suggs, big shot after Vucevic misses crucial free throws at the end of that game. Jalen Suggs goes down, hits the shot, right? And the place erupts. Like I said, people had left. And so it was super special that the people remaining got to celebrate like we got to celebrate. Video, we posted. Terrence Ross repost that video. Jalen Suggs repost that video. A lot of people in that video. So there's a chance that something similar happens in this game at the watch party. It'll be on Wall Street. Wall Street is a totally different environment than, any other place, if I'm being frank. Like, just incredible. It's got kind of a block party type of environment to it. Super exciting. You do not want to miss it because you could be part of a similar experience. Who knows? Maybe Jalen Suggs hits another game winner effectively. Paolo, Franz, anybody's capable of it. It is a great possibility.
Yeah, and not only just for the game. Obviously, this game has two sides of the coin. Number one, it's a regular season game, quote unquote. It counts to the regular season standings. But two, being an in-season tournament game, it just amps it up that much more. And so no matter how Tuesday goes, against the Nets on Tuesday, whether it's a win or a loss, Friday is going to be a huge game. Because let's say you're 1-0 after beating the Nets, you have a chance to go 2-0 when you face the Bulls, and then you're neck and neck with the Celtics, who will also be 2-0 by then. Or if you lose to the Nets, then Friday becomes a must-win game if you want to stay alive in the in-season tournament. You can't lose. Once you lose 2 games, you're more than likely out of contention for moving on. So either way, it's a big game Friday. It's going to be a big watch party at Wall Street, and obviously we want all the biggest and best Magic fans to be there, so you definitely don't want to miss that again. Friday, Wall Street Plaza. Get there about 7:30. Game tips off at 8. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, Kevin, is the part of the show we're going to do what we do every week, the State of the Magic. This week, Kevin, the Magic go 1-2 with losses to the Mavericks, to the Hawks, and as we know, the win at home against the Milwaukee stinking Bucks. What a game, man. And we'll talk more about that. We'll break that down and the Hawks game in Mexico City here as we go on. And as we record this, the Magic sit at 6th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 5-4. And as of Sunday afternoon, the Magic are 22nd in the league in offensive rating at 109.9. And they are 3rd in defensive rating at 105.9. 8th in net rating, sitting at 4 in net rating. So not much on the defensive side has changed in terms of where the Magic fall. It is super interesting, though. Last week, the Magic were like 15th in offensive rating with 109.8, and they are 0.1 points better, and they are 22nd in the league in offensive rating. So the league seems to be getting in the groove. The Magic just got to make sure that they don't get left in the dust at that point on offense. But when you got a defense that's 3rd in defensive rating, goes back to a lot of what Steve Clifford said, right? All he said, and we say it on the show all the time, make the postseason, give yourself the best shot possible, be top 10 in defensive rating or offensive rating. And then the other thing, what he say? And then the flip side of that, whatever it is that you need to be, like top 15, I think is what he said. So the Magic have put themselves in a great spot to succeed, being 3rd in defensive rating, and that 8th in that rating is big too. That +4.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried after the Hawks game on Thursday about the defensive rating there, but it's crazy. I mean, obviously it helps that you bounce back with the performance against the Bucks where you hold them under 100, but yeah, defensive rating, I mean, 3rd in the league, and this is, I don't want to say this is a big sample size, obviously, but 9 games isn't necessarily small either. Like, obviously, I don't know if I expect the Magic to finish top 3 in defensive rating, but the fact that you're 9 games in, over a 10th of the way through the season, which is hard to believe, by the way, that we're already a 10th of the way through the season. Still being, 3rd in defensive rating, that's super impressive to me.
And the last part of State of the Magic here, Kevin, is the injury report. Unfortunately, we got a few guys on it still. And one of the 2 guys we've definitely been used to here over the last week or so, more than that, Gary Harris with that right groin strain, Wendell Carter Jr. with that fractured 3rd metacarpal, as we remember, injured in that Jazz game on a really unfortunate freak accident there on November 2nd. Markelle Fultz is the other one, Kevin. A late scratch once again. 2nd time this year against the Bucks. In the starting lineup, I believe, is what they had said.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
They had him on the graphic, everything. Injury report, he wasn't even there. He wasn't even listed as a game time decision. Nothing to make us think that he would be a late scratch. Is a late scratch. We're to assume it is just all because of that tendonitis, swelling, due to how his knee reacted in warm-ups. It's really concerning, to be honest with you. And I don't know too much. I say this all the time. I give this disclaimer all the time. I don't know anything. I don't try. Jonathan does the deep dives and the research on these injuries and likes to be well educated about it. I don't know what any of it means.
No.
What I do know is that there are people that know more than me, even the common person. Jonathan knows more than me about injury stuff because of his research. I was talking to Blake Gifford after the game, and Blake was talking to me. He's the brother of Ben, who does the Six Fan Show for us here. And I was like, man, yeah, the late scratch of Markelle, kind of concerning. He was like, it's not tendonitis, is it? I was like, it's tendonitis is what they're calling it. And he was like, oh, that's not good. And I was like, oh, don't tell me that. I don't even know what you know, but don't tell me that. So I am very concerned about Markelle Fultz, and just, will we have to worry about that all year? That he's going to maybe be a late scratch? I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I am too, because obviously the health of Markelle is the most important thing. But then I also think about, what does that do for the whole rest of the team, like the psyche of the team? The fact that you can spend a day or days preparing for an opponent, thinking that your lineup is going to be a certain way. And then you roll out there, and an hour before the game goes, you have to pull him from the starting lineup, and not just pulling from the starting lineup, but pull him from playing at all. So then all of a sudden the whole rotation changes and all that kind of stuff.
On the flip side, Kevin, to that though, there is that, yes, you have to prepare a game plan for Markelle Fultz as if he's going to go every night, maybe at this point. I'm assuming they'll keep him out for a few games, maybe at this point. I have no idea. Again, I know nothing.
Yeah.
But this also means that the opposing team has to game plan for a couple different scenarios. on any given night. And you've got a game plan now for Anthony Black, who has proven, and as you talked about on the post-game live show recently, has proven that he is not going to be a net negative for this team.
Right.
He may not win you ball games, every ball game specifically, but he is not going to lose you these games. Teams have to take Anthony Black seriously, and that is the beauty of this, is that teams have to prepare. And we are comfortable at this point. I'm sure you are as well. I'm pretty comfortable with Anthony Black in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I'm definitely comfortable in what we've seen with him, starting lineup, bench unit, whatever. I think he's the real deal. I certainly think, as you mentioned, I just recently talked about this in the Bucks game on the post game live. He doesn't lose you basketball games, at least not yet.
Right.
A relatively small sample size, but obviously been impressed with Anthony Black. And just a side note, the dude's got a little bit of attitude, which I did not expect.
It's incredible.
You know, like he's got 3 techs already, 3 technical fouls, and we're 9 games into his NBA career. He's got 3 techs, which I think is kind of fun. But I don't know.
Well, you've seen it. Every time he hits a corner 3, he turns around and talks to the bench. It doesn't matter what they're. And at this point, I'm like, man, he's instigating on these corner 3s, and I love it. I love the fire that he plays with. He's not scared of the moment. It all is great signs for Anthony Black.
Yeah, which is fun because obviously you and I do not know Anthony Black personally, but as you watch him, at least in the draft process and, after the draft and all that kind of stuff, he seems like kind of a soft-spoken, just very, well-mannered, kind dude. And I'm sure he is all of those things, but it might just be one of those things where he gets on the court and a switch flips, But either way, I love it. I love the energy. I love that he's got a little bit of an edge to him, and obviously definitely trust him, like we said. But yeah, the Markelle stuff is concerning, something to certainly keep an eye on as we go throughout the season. And again, tendonitis apparently tends to flare up, and hopefully they can somehow get a hold of that. But it's Monday's show, Luke. And as we have done our new tradition here on the Six Man Show for this 23-24 season, our Monday episode is where we get to unveil the Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. And this week, Luke, there were several different contenders. We thought about the Jalen lob off the backboard to Paolo in Mexico City, which was a lot of fun. You even came with a great idea, and we ended up giving it honorable mention. Jamal Mosley's dunk in practice, which was a clip that went on the Magic social media channels, which I thought was great. Very funny. Love to see the head coach dunk. I wonder how many head coaches in the NBA can still dunk. I don't know. It's probably very small.
Yeah, Jamal's one of the younger ones in the league.
Yeah.
And not all of those guys played ball. Like
I was about to say, most of them have never dunked in their life, but
Tom Thibodeau is never dunking.
Yeah, Steve Clifford, no chance. No. But yeah, so we honorable mentioned Jamal Mosley, but we ended up giving the nod to Mr. Goga Bitadze. Goga Bitadze, Monday against the Dallas Mavericks, gets the ball kind of near the top of the key and hands it off to Jalen Suggs and just rolls to the basket. And Jalen kind of, lobs it up over to Goga. And it wasn't just an alley-oop. It was alley-oop over Dwight Powell. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a nice play. And a great play for Goga. We wanted to give him some flowers. He's been kind of thrust into this starting lineup with Wendell being hurt. And he's been solid. He's been good. Another guy that, I wouldn't say he's lost you basketball games. Has he fumbled the ball several times? Has he missed shots at the rim? Sure. But he's giving you some rim protection and some relatively good defense. And he's just a solid guy. So that ends up being this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. Now, Luke, on Saturday, before the Bucks game, you had the privilege, the honor, the delight of enjoying some Jam Hot Chicken for yourself. Luke, I want you to tell the people, because this was your first time.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a long time coming, but this is your first time experiencing Jam Hot Chicken. Luke Sylvia, tell the people about your experience at Jam Hot.
You, myself, and Jonathan are at a disadvantage compared to the other Winter Park, Orlando locals because we do not live in that area, right? And so to this point, you and Jonathan have tried it, and Ben from the Sixth Fan Show had also tried it, and I had not. All I was going off of was hearsay. Now, I trust y'all's opinion with food a lot, Kevin. I will say that. I trust you guys. And all 3 of you guys were talking, just raving about this chicken sandwich specifically, and that is the best chicken sandwich you've ever had. I was like, I trust them that it is very good. Is it going actually to be the best ever? Dude, I I risked it for the biscuit or the chicken sandwich, I should say. I was on my way. I got stuck in traffic. I was cutting it close. I was trying to make it to the pregame presser to talk to Jamal Mosley, obviously. And I was like, no, I got to go. Like, to be honest with you, Kevin, my mindset was, I'm getting this chicken sandwich. I might miss the pregame presser. That was I was like, I have to get my hands on a Sando. So I go there. For those of you guys that don't know, Jam Hot Chicken is located there at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. And it's a cool little outside setup. They've got windows to take your order right there. It's not a drive-through option. You can order online as well in that website, jamhotchickenfl.com. You can look at the menu, order ahead, all that kind of stuff. I am eating this in my car as I'm driving, Kevin. It's not a great for me in this. Like, I wanted to be able to sit down and eat this sandwich.
Right.
I'm in my car driving, hoping I don't spill anything on my shirt. And there's pickles on this. Great pickles.
House-made pickles. Big pickle guy. And some slaw with the vinegar base. The vinegar base was incredible. Not super mayonnaise-y, but the vinegar was awesome. Dude, even the bun was awesome. It's legit.
I got a couple bites of just the bun by itself, and it was awesome. The actual chicken, the fillet, the breast, I guess. I'm not a big I don't know these terms.
I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Don't worry about it. It was just tender and flavorful. I got mild. So the Jam Hot Chicken rule of thumb is, however hot you think you can handle, go one below it.
That's right.
I think I could handle. I think the next one up is medium, maybe. I was like, no, I'm just gonna go mild, the lowest spice level they have, and I still got the taste of it. The spice came through still. The slaw was incredible on it. I cannot say enough about this chicken sandwich. So you guys go out, do it for yourself, see for yourself, just like I did. I didn't want to just take their word for it. Don't take our word for it. Go try it yourself. Tell them that they sent you. The other thing, last thing here before we move on, Kevin. Andrew, the owner, the founder of Jam Hot Chicken, is working. He is behind the counter. He is busting his butt. No matter when you go, the dude is there. He was there. He took my order, and the dude just wants to be involved. He's so hands-on. He's got other people working there, and still, man, is in the thick of it. They are crushing it over there at Jam Hot Chicken. Raving reviews on Yelp all the time. Yelp ranks them high in Florida restaurants, man. They're awesome. Go and see them.
Yeah, and some big-time Magic fans. Andrew is a huge Orlando Magic fan. That's the reason we even partner with them. Is we started talking on Instagram and obviously found this mutual love for Orlando Magic and good food and good vibes and all that stuff. So yeah, big shout out to Jam Hot Chicken. All right, Luke, let's talk about some basketball games. This week, since our last episode on Thursday, the Magic played in Mexico City against the Hawks, and then on Saturday, of course, against the Bucks. We'll start with this Hawks game in Mexico City. Obviously, it's always a little bit strange and odd when you have these games that are just so different. You know, for example, a game that's in a different country, you know, in Mexico. Obviously, it kind of throws off everything. It throws off the travel schedule. It throws off just the rhythms that you're in. It's in a, you know, which is technically like mountain time zone. It's 2 hours, you know, behind, you know, Eastern time zone. So it's a 9:30 tip time, and you're in a foreign country and all these different things. And so it's just a different vibe. And so when you go into a game like that, you really don't know what to expect for either team. And what we got was not necessarily great. You know, it ends up being obviously a tight game, 1 point game, but some things were good. A lot was not good in this game. And obviously this game ended up coming down to the wire. I don't even know where to even start with this game. I guess we could start with how it ended, and then we could work our way back. Obviously this game, as I said, down to the wire, ends up with a Paolo Banchero wide open three that could potentially give you the lead. Right after, I should mention, I got to mention the play before, because Trae Young, who I can't stand, by the way, I'm not giving him flowers, but I'm going to slightly give him one flower. If there's any part of his game that I admire and respect, it's his vision. He's an incredible passer of the basketball. He's so good. And it ended up being part of the game-winning play when he made that ridiculous pass to DeJounte Murray in the corner, which was insane. So Bucks. Hawks take the lead. Magic come down the other end, get a wide open Paolo Banchero 3 that doesn't go. Scramble for the rebound. Markelle gets it, tosses it back, and even with a timeout, they weren't able to take a timeout, and time expires, and Magic lose in very heartbreaking fashion because this was a very hard-fought game. But there were a lot of holes in this game, a lot of reasons why the Magic lost. And if you ask me, between all the close games this season, the Lakers game on the road, the Mavericks game on Monday, this Hawks game was the game that the Magic really should have won. Like, so many reasons. One play better. If you make one more play, if you make, one or two more free throws, one fewer turnovers, this was the game of really fine margins, and the Magic just made one less play than the Hawks. This was a game I really thought they should have won. Luke, what kind of thoughts do you have about this Hawks game?
Since you obviously talk about the end of this game, I do want to talk about one thing that was probably a learning experience for our guy, Paolo Banchero. He's not used to, in that last line of defense, having a guy that can block shots.
Yeah.
The Magic are up 1 with a minute left, Kevin. And a minute and 3 left. The Magic up 117-116. Trae Young drives to the bucket, gets past Paolo Banchero. Paolo has J.I. as the last line of defense. And Paolo just swiftly smacks Trae Young on the back of the head trying to go for the ball. Sends Trae Young to the free throw line. I believe he splits those. Ties the game. In this scenario, you have just got to live with it. Either J.I. swats that ball or does what you're going to do anyway, which is foul him.
That's right.
And J.I. is going to get harder foul on Trae Young in that instance. Maybe benefit you a little bit more going to the free throw line, knowing that he ran into Jonathan Isaac. But I think in that instance, that's where you've got to know KYP, know your personnel. Know Jonathan Isaac is down there and is more than capable of making that play. So in hindsight, that was one of the things down the stretch that I was like, this is just a young team that is learning, but you've got to let Jonathan Isaac at least attempt to block that shot and go the other way, keep your 1-point lead. So that's one of my takeaways there down the stretch.
Yeah, that's such a good point, man. It's a new experience, like you said. The fact that Jonathan Isaac is even seeing the floor right now is a new experience for all of these guys. And the fact that he's now being slowly given a longer leash and is playing now crunch time in some of these games is a totally new experience. And we're going to, at least I'm going to mention Jonathan Isaac here in a little bit. We're going to talk about his numbers and his minutes and all that kind of stuff this week. But I did want to talk about a couple other, really tough spots in this game that led to the loss. Obviously, there's a very bright spot in Jalen Suggs. We can mention him in a second. But the other guy I had to mention, the other thing I wanted to mention was Franz. I mentioned this in the post-game live. I thought, just by the eye test, not necessarily by stats, but by the eye test, I thought this might have been Franz's worst game in a Magic uniform. I thought he looked lost at times, very inefficient especially by his standards. There's 5 of 12 from the from the field, from the 5 of 12 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3 with 4 turnovers. And I think he probably contributed to maybe 1 or 2 others that don't show up in the box score. Poor decision making defensively, maybe even lackluster effort defensively at several times. I just thought, all in all, again, just by the eye test, I thought it was probably his worst performance in a Magic uniform, which was surprising. Some people have said maybe it was the altitude, maybe it was, who knows. But that was disappointing. And then the fact that Paolo and Franz together combined for 9 turnovers. We haven't even talked about free throws yet, because we will. But that in itself, like your 2 best guys, your 2 key guys, they cannot combine for 9 turnovers and you have a chance to win a game. The fact that they did combine for 9 and you still lost by a point says something. So yeah, that was a little bit concerning for me.
Paolo Banchero, I believe it was after the Bucks game, or no, maybe it was in the post game, the stand up interview with Dante following the game against the Bucks. Dante's basically just asking his feelings on the win and whatever, and being back home, and Paolo saying something to the effect of, we definitely didn't play well against Atlanta, against a pretty good Atlanta team this far in the season, and we only lost by 1. Right? So Paolo himself admitting not the greatest game. And obviously, there's a lot to learn from it. It was a weird environment being in Mexico City instead of like at home. It's really, I'm still irritated that you lose that home game when it should have been like you're just comfy at home for an extended period of time. So kind of breaks up that home stand, but yeah, just a little irritating. Now, I do want to talk about the free throws. I was going to save the tweet from our guy Fazan until talking about after the Bucks game, but now's the best time because in this game against the Hawks, the Magic shoot an abysmal number from the free throw line, Kevin. The Magic get to the line 35 times, which is awesome. The Magic are no stranger to the free throw line, especially this year and last year. Funny part is, as well, I will acknowledge this too, Kevin. 2 seasons ago, season before Paolo Banchero, the Magic were dead last in free throw attempts.
Yep.
Now we are looking at the point where the Magic, that's not the case anymore. They've got Paolo Banchero, they got Franz Wagner, they got guys getting to the line. They are second now at 28 free throws a game behind only Milwaukee.
Yeah.
But if you were going to get to the line, you need to be able to make them consistently. And the Magic, that's the next step for this team. We saw it against the Bucks. They are capable of it. But against Atlanta, you miss 10 free throws. You go 25 of 35. Not great. To this point in the year, I think you're shooting 74%, which puts you one of the worst teams in the league of free throw shooting. But against Atlanta, 10 free throw misses. That's a 1-point loss. At Utah, you miss 9 free throws. That's a 2-point win. 14 free throw misses against the Clippers. That's a 16-point loss. Portland, 11 misses from the free throw line. That's a 5-point win. In the games that you've won against Portland and Utah, those are small wins in terms of margin. They can be a lot larger if you just knock down your free throws. A lot less sweating in that game happen, and those games happen. Against Atlanta, you win that game if you make a couple more free throws.
Yep.
You lose by 1. You're in a track meet with the Atlanta Hawks, which is a place you shouldn't be in. At halftime, it was an outrageous score. I can't remember what it was, but it was like 60-something to 70 or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
High scoring game at halftime in that Atlanta game. Writing's on the wall. You're probably not going to be able to keep up with Atlanta. Somehow, some way, you keep up with them. And to make matters worse, if you just knock down a couple free throws, you win this game as well. You really sneak out a win against Atlanta. You don't play well. You somehow keep up with the offensive firepower. But free throws lose you this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. You said it. You lose by 1. You miss 10 free throws. Do the math. What was interesting about this game when it comes to the free throw line, when we talk about the Bucks here in a little bit, we'll talk about their horrible free throw shooting, but that was all attributed to one person. We talk about the fact that Paolo gets to the line a lot. This game was incredibly even from the free throw line. Paolo shot 4, Franz 2, Goga 4, Markelle 3, Jalen 6, Cole 6, Anthony Black 2, Mo Wagner 1, and the leader of the team in free throw attempts, Jonathan Isaac, with 7. So it's not like we can sit here and blame one guy for the reason why we missed 10 free throws like you can, like the Bucks can with Giannis. It was just like a contagious thing that night, which is just so hard to watch sometimes when that happens. But I'm not a hooper. I can't ever say that I have been. I've never been a part of an organized basketball team. But this is a thing. Like you see it at all levels of basketball, from high school, college, NBA. Sometimes there are just some nights where it's contagious, whether it's free throws or 3-pointers or whatever. And unfortunately, that was the case on Thursday in Mexico City against Atlanta. Yeah, that was painful when a game is right there for the taking and you just can't see it through. The bright spots of this game, though, I mean, we have to talk about Jalen Suggs. He was sensational on both ends of the floor. Obviously, you know what you're going to get from him defensively, but a career-high 6 steals, which, by the way, right after the game was 7 steals. I don't know what happened. There's been all kinds of different changes in the scorekeeping this season, but ends up with 6 steals, a career high, but offensively, 21 points, 7-10 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. just a sensational night from Jalen, which would continue obviously on Saturday, but obviously really, really great to see Jalen. And then the bench played pretty well as well. Jonathan Isaac, I said I was going to mention him. He plays 16 minutes in this game on Thursday, and including crunch time minutes down the stretch. You know, we're just coming off of the fact that earlier in the week, Jonathan Isaac missed a game for resting, you know, whatever small ailment he had at the time. As this team slowly, and I mean painfully slowly, brings him back into the fold, to see him play not just 16 minutes, but to see him get crunch time minutes in the fourth was great. And obviously, we're going to talk about it in a second, but the fact that he turned right around and played 17 minutes against the Bucks, I couldn't believe it. It's a great sign for the Magic to see him back in the fold. And like you mentioned, it's a totally different dimension to this team when you have him on the floor, when you have him in the defense, you know, down the stretch. Just really good, at least from my standpoint, to see Jonathan Isaac playing minutes again.
Yeah, and the next point I want to make, Kevin, is a point that I've made a couple times before, but just want to continue to re-emphasize it because it is that important. The Magic finally can mostly afford for a key player or two to be off that night and still be competitive.
Yeah.
Trae Young has 41 points in this game. 13 free throws, by the way. Just a free throw merchant.
Yeah.
12 of 13 from the line. And the Magic, Cole Anthony, 1 of 7 from the field. Joe Ingles, 1 of 6 from the field. J.I., 3 of 8. Your bench, from a shooting perspective, is definitely not efficient in this one. Your whole bench unit, we're not just talking about 1 or 2 key guys. Your whole bench unit was not great in terms of, you know, efficiently putting the ball in the basket, which needs to happen to score points and win games. But the Magic still loses one by only 1. I can't emphasize enough, if this team has this, you know, that type of efficiency struggle, especially from the bench last year, you get your doors blown off.
It's a great point.
You can't keep up with, last year, if we go into a game and you're like, Trae Young drops 41 points, what happened? Oh, the Magic probably lose by 10 plus points. Magic lose by 1, and the truth is, you hit a couple of free throws, Cole Anthony doesn't make only 1 shot in this game, you win this game. So, although it did sting, there is a ton of silver lining from this game. And that's the truth of the matter. This team is on the path to being a good team.
And when you consider the fact that this is without 2 of your key players, Wendell and Gary Harris, both out, and yet all of the surrounding cast was able to, as you said, somehow put together a performance in spite of all those things, and you only lose by 1. Again, you're only 1 play away from winning this game. Mm-hmm. As you said, just big kudos to this team and the progress that we've been seeing. Guys, before we move into the Bucks game, we definitely want to tell you about the people that make this show possible. These are our lovely patrons. These are the people that help financially support the Six Man Show. They're really special people, and they have a very special place in our hearts because they believe in us. They believe in this project that we have, this whole idea of uniting Orlando Magic fans and making a space for Magic fans to hang out and enjoy games and talk about it and listen to cool Orlando Magic content. And so each and every show, we shout out our Hall of Fame and our elite tier patrons because they're awesome, and it's something that we like to do for them. And so we're going to kick it off with Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Franz's Warmth, Pierre A., Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, congratulations, Mikey, Danimal, Dutto15, Bobby Skinner, Goody93, Teddy Sylvia, shout out, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Edmund Langone, Jose Esquilin, Caleb Pete, Ty, Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95 Shred, Junior Barus, Half Freakin', Shahin 177, Bobby the Don, Himlo Band Himro, RM Prov 221, Ray Pastrana, Spanking Season, Soft Taco, Victor Cologne, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz, Maria, Keith Wallace, Fritz, Currency Kev, Bruv Sal, Kason Green, Sancy Leone, Kane Eckler, The Distract, and Ahmad Timsa. Again, big shout out to all of our patrons. If you would like to join our Patreon and support the Sixth Man Show, you can visit patreon.com/the Sixth Man Show. All right, Luke, we talked about progress. We talked about this team making progress over the course of one season. The Orlando Magic made some big progress on Saturday, not only getting a win, but the fact that you lost to this team 14 consecutive times in the regular season before this game on Saturday, which, by the way, I like that we have to add that in the regular season because of game one in 2020 of the first round playoffs, which thank goodness that we won that game, because otherwise, if you add 4 to that, then this is an 18-game losing streak altogether to the Milwaukee Bucks. But 14 games in the regular season. I mean, from the jump, I mentioned this again on the post-game live. I was really concerned about this game. When you look at the schedule, the fact that the Magic played in Mexico City Thursday night with a late tip, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. You play in Mexico City, a tough place to play, an unfamiliar environment, at altitude. You have to turn around less than 48 hours, fly all the way back to Orlando, play one of the best teams in the NBA. I was definitely concerned. I had almost written it as a schedule loss. But again, with this team, with the energy that they have, the hustle that they have, the passion that they have, a Jamal Mosley coach team is never just going to roll over and just say, oh, it's a schedule loss. They're always going to give their best. But even with that, I wasn't sure how this game was going to go. We find out before the game tips off that Damian Lillard is a no-go. So that was obviously a big boost for this team for the Magic to not have to face him, because that dude, I mean, you don't need me to tell you, that dude's special. So you go into this game, no Damian Lillard. As we mentioned earlier, you go into this game expecting to have Markelle Fultz, and then at the last minute, he gets pulled because of that knee. And so Anthony Black again starts for the Magic. And what a start it was. For this team, the first quarter, you go out, you win the entire first half. You beat them 29-25 in the first quarter. In the second quarter is when you really, establish the gap there with 36-24 in that second quarter. I was really impressed with how this team came out. They could have come out tired, lethargic, physically, mentally tired again from that trip to Mexico City. But a great start for them, and just a great night for a lot of guys. Paolo, Franz, Jalen, all sensational for the starters. We already mentioned Jonathan Isaac playing 17 minutes, the most minutes he's played since the bubble, which is crazy. And obviously, wire-to-wire win, basically, for this team. Love to see it, and against a really big opponent. Luke, let's start. Your thoughts on this huge win against the Milwaukee Bucks?
Very impressive, obviously. Not breaking news to anybody. Listen, I've seen it on social media. I've heard it from people that I know. Well, great job, you beat the Bucks, but they didn't have Damian Lillard. Do you think I care that this team didn't have Damian Lillard? I will say there's also a shift in perspective for me. I tweeted about this from our account on Twitter, or X, sorry. I said there's been a shift in perspective. I hope it's for a lot of Magic fans. I don't think that it's maybe totally the case yet. But as this team gets better, you're going to the game because you love the Magic and you're a fan of the Magic. I am no longer, obviously it's just maybe, I don't know, growing up, but and seeing some of those guys already play in person before. But I'm no longer going to these games because, oh man, I need to see Damian Lillard play in person. To this point, I don't know that I have, and still haven't. But my initial reaction to him not playing wasn't, dang, I didn't get to see Damian Lillard. I don't get to see him play tonight. I've never seen him before. I was like, this is a huge opportunity for this team. Markelle Fultz is a scratch as well. After Damian Lillard news breaks, you've got to win this game. That's your mindset. That's my mindset at that point. And, there's always going to be people in there that are just maybe younger or whatever, just don't care as much to see the team necessarily win. They're like, oh man, I wish Dame would have played. It's no longer the perspective anymore. And it hasn't been that way for a few years. But that was like, at that point, it hit me. I was like, man, I am relieved that Damian Lillard isn't playing in this game. And the fact that the Magic pull this out with Anthony Black starting at point guard, I can't say enough about this team.
That's such a good point. I love that, Luke. The fact that it's very similar to the Lakers game in a lot of ways, at least for me, where Yeah, and this was you who said this, so I'll give you credit. How many people went to go see LeBron James play but stayed to watch Paolo Banchero play?
Mhm.
You know, it's probably very similar on Saturday night. Giannis is obviously one of the best players in the league, reigning MVP, all those things. Or no, sorry, Joel Embiid's the reigning MVP. Don't listen to me. Previous MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, incredible basketball player, NBA champion, all those things. Just a absolute freak of nature. He's well worth any NBA ticket price. I'm just saying, he's incredible.
Mhm.
However, a lot of people, you know, obviously went to this game on Saturday to see him play, but instead they got to see an incredible show, not just by the Magic as a whole, but specifically by the Magic's key young guys. Paolo, amazing night for Paolo. 26 points for him, along with 12 boards, 5 assists, a steal, a solid 10 of 22 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. A great Paolo stat line. And the last stat line of 20-year-old Paolo Banchero. Obviously, happy belated birthday to Paolo, who turned 21 on Sunday. Which is still crazy that he did those things at 20 years old, Luke.
Mhm.
Like, that is ridiculous. That's crazy. But in addition to Paolo, Franz with a great bounce back game after Thursday's game. 24 points for him, 8 of 16 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, 6 boards, 3 assists, a steal. And then Jalen just continues to be sensational on both ends. 20 points for him. He shot 10 free throws in this game. I don't know if that's his career high, but it's got to be really stinking close if it isn't. Just a great night. Mo Wagner was great off the bench. We already mentioned Jonathan Isaac, not just playing 17 minutes and scoring 10 points, but playing great defense on Giannis and the whole Bucks, team. But great defense on Giannis, and just a really great, solid win for this Magic team.
Just to follow up on the Jalen Suggs thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We said he had what?
He had 10 free throw attempts. Yeah.
His career high is 11 against the Warriors, November 3rd, 2022.
I was at that game.
Yeah.
That was the big game last year, the home game where he clamped down Steph Curry, got the 2 steals down the stretch and hit the 3, all that good stuff, which was a crazy game.
Yeah.
11 free throws that game.
11 free throws that game. This game against Milwaukee ties the second. The other one that he had was 10 free throws against the Lakers, January of 2022. There's one thing about Jalen Suggs. He loves the big moments.
He does.
Those are all big opponents.
Think about that.
Those are all big opponents. The Warriors, the Bucks, the Lakers. And that Warriors game, he's obviously, as we know, he has a stat line of 26 points, 9 assists, 4 steals. Milwaukee, he has 20 points. He has 20 points in that one. Efficient night as well. Basically 46% from the field, 50% from 3. Lakers, 10 free throw attempts in that one. Scores 22 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists. He listen, bright lights, I'm not worried about Jalen Suggs. The only thing I am worried about Jalen Suggs on any given night, especially big nights, is that he's going to go too fast and injure himself in some way, shape, or form. But, man, the kid knows how to be aggressive and use his body to get to the free throw line, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier, you win this game in the first half. Like I said, literally, statistically speaking, that's where you literally win the game because the Bucks actually outscore you by a point in the second half, which I thought was really impressive, like I said, coming off that Mexico City game. But in both of these games, Luke, the Hawks game, the Bucks game, the Magic, no pun intended here, bucked the trend that they've had. Okay, I intended it. They bucked the trend that they've had for most of this season. They win the third quarter against the Hawks. And they end up tying in the third quarter against the Bucks somehow, because I thought the Magic played really poorly in the third quarter. So you do like to see that progress. The previous couple weeks of the season, Magic just could not win a third quarter. I mean, they won a couple, but a lot of the games they lost in the third quarter. And so obviously great to see this team play really well in the third quarter, at least well enough in the third quarter of both of these games. But yeah, I already mentioned a little bit. But the fact that Jonathan Isaac played 16 minutes and then 17 minutes in, consecutive games, I could not believe that. That's like the biggest stat line for me of this whole entire week. Obviously the wins are great and all that stuff, but 17 minutes from Jonathan Isaac after playing 16 minutes really kind of sheds some light on the fact that he's starting to be able to play some basketball. And we know he said, in the preseason, at media day, he was like, if it's up to me, I'm going. Like I'm going. And so it looks like slowly but surely the front office, the training staff is letting Jonathan Isaac play basketball, and that is exciting.
As I said earlier, Kevin, I got the opportunity to go to this game, cover it under the 6-man show, be a part of the pregame and postgame availability. And in this one, I asked Coach Mosley, after the game, J.I., 17 minutes against the Bucks, coming off, 16 against the Hawks, closing lineup, once again, at the 5, playing the center position. And I just said, talk about J.I.'s importance to this team. I'll paraphrase, but Mosley goes on to say that this guy is so good, that he is that good, that he is going to be at some point part of the all defensive team conversation, and furthermore could eventually be in the defensive player of the year conversation. Now, some of us Magic fans think that even a few years ago he would have been, if he wasn't, to that point, if he didn't get injured.
Yep.
So it shouldn't be surprising, but it is still surprising because of the injuries and the rehab that J.I.'s had to go through, that he is still at this level, and that it's not just us. It's not just us that are saying it. So it was just awesome to hear after a win that Jonathan Isaac plays a role in and is in the closing lineup, despite a poor shooting performance, for him to say he is that good, that he can be that great defensively, and also not shoot that well and still be trusted to be in this game and affect the game, because that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, if you ask any Magic fan that really follows this team, we've said all it takes for Jonathan Isaac, if he's on the floor, he's defensive team conversation.
Yeah.
If he's on the floor, he's in that conversation. And so to actually see it happening now, 16 minutes, 17 minutes, you get 2 days off, between Saturday and Tuesday before this road trip starts. I mean, are those numbers going to continue to go up? Maybe, especially right now without Wendell, there is room on the floor in this rotation for more minutes for Jonathan Isaac if he can handle it. So can we hit 20 minutes here in a little bit in this season? I don't know if it'll be this week, but in the next couple weeks, is he going to hit a 20-minute game? Is that in the cards? It might be. I mean, that's kind of hard to imagine as a Magic fan, seeing Jonathan Isaac on the floor for 20 whole minutes in a basketball game. But he played 17 on Saturday, which is great. Obviously, really pumped about that, and just pumped about this game as a whole. It's a big win against a really good team. Well, I mean, you're as good as them right now so far. Both teams 5-4, but good stuff for the Magic. Any other thoughts about this Bucks game or this whole week, Luke, before we look ahead?
Yeah, just kind of the last thing that I'll leave you guys with about this Bucks game specifically. Once again, Trae Young in Mexico City, you lose by 1, he drops 41. Giannis drops 35. He's a minus 11 in this one, because the Magic are just in control of this game, especially in that first half. You assert your dominance and then basically play even the rest of the way, and that's all it takes to win. You get out of this game a 15-point win to this point, and I said this in our group chat, Kevin, earlier in the week. I said the Bucks are 5-3, yet they have a minus 2.3 point differential to this point. They have been in close games and they've been losing, and winning some of them, obviously, but they were 5-3. My mindset was with this team, don't let them get back on track against you. You can't let it happen. And I was fearful that the Bucks would get back on track against the Magic, wallop us at our own place and send us away with our tail between our legs. But instead, we did the opposite. We sent them home with them thinking, we got to go back to the drawing board. We need to figure something out. Because at this point, you now have a -4, I believe it was, for the point differential, minus 3.6 for Milwaukee now after that loss to the Magic. And they sit at the same record as we do. Says a lot about the Magic. The Bucks will be just fine. They were without Damian Lillard in this one, but it's still, you got to think the Magic are starting to be the cause of other teams' problems, and them thinking we got to go back to the drawing board. So just once again, hats off to the Magic. This young group of guys, they don't stop fighting. They don't make excuses, and they're figuring it out how to win. And that is going to be the course of this season. Yes, you're good. You have potential. You've got the talent, but can you win close basketball games, and can you avoid close basketball games? the Magic avoided a close basketball game in this one against a former champion in recent years and the Finals MVP, MVP of the league. It is incredible.
Yeah. You talk about close games, Luke. As we look ahead to the week ahead, I can promise you there will be at least one close game because I think this is a very interesting stretch. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I wanted to circle back to it. If you ask me, first off, there's no question this week ahead is the most important week of the Magic season thus far. Like, for sure. Yeah, you've played some big games, all that kind of stuff. A lot of them are against Western Conference teams that you're not going to directly be competing with for playoff positioning or seeding. Whereas this week, that's all you're playing. And not just that, you add the in-season tournament to that. It's just a huge week. I'll just recap it again. Tuesday, we play at Brooklyn, which is an in-season tournament game, the first of the Magic season. Wednesday, you're in Chicago. That's a back-to-back. Tuesday, Wednesday. That's always tough. Friday, you're at Chicago again, this time for an in-season tournament game. And then Sunday, you're at the Pacers in Indianapolis to round out this 4-game road trip that takes up this entire week. I mean, when you talk about, again, the fact that this is Brooklyn, Chicago twice, and Indy, all three teams are teams that most people project to be in the same kind of category as the Magic when it comes to the season, predictions and standings and all those kinds of things. We saw last year those head-to-head matchups with teams that were kind of in that same range as the Magic ended up being, the difference, obviously. When it comes down to seeding, every game matters. As the Magic would know last season, you're just a couple games away from being in a play-in spot. I very well expect these teams that we're playing against, most, if not all of them, to be within a handful of games of the Magic, one way or the other, whether the Magic are behind them or the Magic are in front of them. But this week is huge for not just the regular season, but again, the in-season tournament. That's a thing that I think the Magic are really going to try to go for. I think most teams are. If you haven't had a chance to watch any of the in-season tournament games from the other teams, most of them have been really fun, really competitive. And I think the Magic will try to do the same thing. But yeah, it's a really big week. Luke, I'd love to kind of hear, before we talk about predictions and things, your thoughts about this week. And as we mentioned, the competitors that we're facing, but also the whole idea of the in-season tournament tipping off.
Before the NBA season, Jonathan and I previewed and gave predictions for the standings. All of these teams are in the same realm that I have the Magic in the season, right?
Yeah.
Some of you guys will know, in that projection list, I had the Magic at 6th. Was I feeling bold that night? Yes. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, if I'm being quite honest. And I had the Bulls 8th, Pacers 9th, and the Nets 13th. All these teams I projected would finish worse than the Magic. This is a measuring stick week. To this point, you have really played teams that you think to be maybe better than you or worse than you, right? So obviously we know the losses or the wins the Magic had early, the Houston, Portland games. You expected those to happen. You should beat those teams. And it's a great sign the Magic beat those teams.
Yeah.
Magic dropping games to the Clippers, the Lakers. You get your revenge against the Lakers. You've had some impressive wins already in the season against teams that are known to be better in terms of talent and will probably and likely finish higher in the standings. So now you sit at the point of, okay, now we're playing teams that are more considered on our level. How are you going to do it? The Pacers look good. The Nets look good. The Bulls are struggling.
Yeah, they really are.
And that is crazy to me that's like what we're looking at. Not shocking, right? Like they were one of the primed candidates of what I said in that episode to be a team to blow it up, and why I had them finishing 8th in the East. Because I think at some point they trade away a key piece and they're still not good, like bad enough to be the worst.
Right.
Unless they just blow everything up, right? And then they end up being way worse than 8th. So yeah, this is a measuring stick week. It's a big week. The in-season tournament, first that we will see for the Magic in Brooklyn. Similar court as well to the Magic with that gray look. So we'll get kind of a look to see, if you haven't already seen it, what these courts look like, especially with that gray, because a lot of teams opted for it because they don't want to go too loud, like a lot of teams got talked into, I think.
Yeah. What I mentioned when I talk about this on the Saturday postgame live, if you ask me, and we're about to predict this in a second, you have to win this 5-game stretch. I know this week is 4 games, but the game following that is next Tuesday against the Raptors, another team that's in that realm where you expect the Magic to finish. This 5-game stretch, the most winnable 5-game stretch of this team's season thus far, you have to win this 5-game stretch. You have to go at least 3-2 if you ask me. Anything less than that, I would be very disappointed. I think this team is good enough to do 3-2. I think this team is good enough to go 4-1. I mean, this team's good enough to go 5-0. I'm not going to sit here and predict 5-0. I think this team has what it takes to go 5-0. But speaking about just this week, Nets, Bulls, Pacers. Luke, how are you feeling going into this with all those things we just discussed? In-season tournament, all those things. What's your record prediction for the Magic this week?
More than talent in this league, it comes down to the schedule and what context. You have to add context. Yeah. And that's one thing I've learned in these week ahead predictions. I'm super heavy on the scheduling and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because that's how the NBA goes. These teams are all capable of winning games, but it's how the NBA schedule sets you up. This week, I've got the Magic going 2-2. And I'll kind of talk through that here quickly, but I think you win this game in Brooklyn. I think you win this in-season tournament game. I think it's a statement win in the start of this measuring stick type of week. You win that game. I think Wednesday you lose. You drop it because it's coming off a back-to-back, logistically speaking. The Bulls are not in that scenario at all. I think the Bulls played today on Sunday as we record this against the Pistons, got a 1-point win. They play the Bucks on Monday, and then they play us on Wednesday. So they get that day break. The Magic don't get that. They're going back-to-back. That's a loss to me. Friday, Magic get their revenge just a couple days later. It's one thing I like as well. You lose to the Lakers. You play them shortly after at home. You get the win. I like these type of series, to be honest with you. Gives you a chance to bounce back, keep your confidence, especially going against that team. So, yeah, Magic lose on Wednesday. Magic win on Friday. Now, Kevin, what is this BS against the Pacers, bro? We play on Sunday after we play, obviously, that game against the Bulls on Friday. The Pacers play Tuesday for their in-season tournament game against the Sixers. They don't play again till Sunday.
Well, no.
That's what the schedule says. Am I missing something?
That would be insane.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I got to check this out. It's not that I don't believe you, but I just
don't know if it's some weird end season. Like,
that is hard to believe.
They're waiting on something to schedule. There's no way, right?
You're right.
It's so crazy to me.
They're off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So the Pacers, who have been playing well, all things considered, they're 6-4, and they play the Sixers in their in-season tournament on Tuesday, where I'm sure they'll go hard, but it's not going to matter because they can rest for almost a week.
4 days off.
Yeah. So
that is crazy.
And then they get to play at home.
Right.
So it's not like they even have to travel at any point for that. So that's why I think the Magic dropped this game. Unfortunately, just due to scheduling circumstances. This is a crazy circumstance and scenario to me. I don't know how that's the case.
Yeah.
Screw you, NBA, first of all. But yeah, I think you definitely lose that game as a result. I'm like you said, I am open and hopeful that the Magic go 4-0 this week. But realistically, the back-to-back against the Bulls and then the Pacers get an eternity to rest before they play you again on that Sunday. 2-2 seems reasonable. I hope it's 3-1. I hope that you beat the Nets, beat the Bulls twice, and then you can afford a loss against the Pacers after that. I wouldn't blame the Magic for losing that game if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, Luke, going into this, before I even asked you about it, that was my exact prediction. Win-loss, win-loss. Right. Typically, I'm a competitive guy, so typically I would change my answer just to try to beat you.
Yeah, I beat Jonathan last week, by the way, for everybody listening, keeping track. I'm sure you aren't, but I beat Jonathan.
There you go.
Anyway.
And on one side, Luke, the idea of the Pacers having 4 days off compared to your normal 1-day rest seems to favor the Pacers, obviously, and I think it does. But there is a world, Luke, in which this high-powered offense of the Pacers, this 3-point heavy offense of the Pacers, gets 4 days off and is a little bit, rusty on Sunday. So maybe the Magic can catch them, off their game on Sunday in Indianapolis. But I'm still going to stick to the prediction. I have the same prediction. I think you beat the Nets, lose on the back-to-back in Chicago, which is only the second back-to-back of the season so far for the Magic, by the way. Lose in Chicago. You beat them on Friday in the in-season tournament game and then lose on Sunday to the Pacers. I'm telling you guys, if we're 2-0 in the in-season tournament going back home next week for our 2 in-season tournament games, that's going to be spicy.
Your chances.
You feel good about your chances. And just the energy at Amway is going to be really spicy.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add, you talk about the Pacers having high-powered offense, the best offense in the league by offensive rating standards at 122 and some change, 122.2. And to give you some context, the Magic are not at 122.2. But defensively, the Pacers are one of the worst in the league.
Right.
To this point, right? I mean, you see it. The Sixers scored like 130 something.
Yeah, 139 or whatever it was.
So there, like you said, there is a world where they come out rusty. They don't know how to play defense anyway. So the Magic just are able to take advantage of that and hopefully steamroll them at Indiana. That would be a huge statement win, in my opinion, with all the odds against you. But yeah, there's a chance they kind of clam up a little bit. They're knocking the rust off on Sunday, and they're not ready to go.
Yeah, and also don't forget, this Pacers team gave up 52, 54, something like that to Giannis on Thursday before the Magic shut him, quote unquote, slowed him down to a slow 35 or whatever we did. So, Pacers defense is bad. But yeah, that game was very interesting. Regardless of the schedule, I'm really interested in that game just for the whole offense versus defense thing. It's like football, one of the best offenses versus one of the best defenses. Something has to give, that kind of thing. So huge week for the Magic ahead. I can't wait to see how it goes. I'm really, really hopeful. I hope this team can put together some good performances, some complete performances over the course of these games to have a winning record during this very winnable 5-game stretch. Luke, it's been a fun one tonight. You got any other final thoughts before we call it a night?
No, it's a thick boy. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys are here at this point, man, go Magic. It is good to talk about a win most recently. Yeah. This team just continues to honestly impress me. And hopefully this week is a good one. I think it will be. I got a good feeling about it.
Absolutely. So just a reminder again, folks, Friday, the first 6-man show, Orlando Magic Michelob Ultra watch party. Again, it's going to get started right around 7:30 before the game tips off at 8. That'll be at Wall Street Plaza, again, this Friday. And don't forget, Tuesday night as well, we'll be on playback for the Magic's first in-season tournament game against the Nets. Tuesday night, that game tips off at 7:30. You can join us on playback. And, of course, tune in to the post-game live after each and every Orlando Magic game. And then we'll be back on Thursday for another episode of the 6-Man Show. Hopefully, Jonathan is back by then. Obviously, hope you're feeling better, bro. We'll talk to you on Thursday. But for Luke Sylvia, I'm producer Kevin. You all have been listening to the 6-Man Show. We will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the 6th Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at 6-Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!